Hello, and welcome to One Cool Thing, PC Mag's daily Facebook show where we talk to you about one cool thing that we've been testing here in PC Labs. I'm Tom Brandt, here with Will Greenwald.
Hello.
And we have got a Roku Streaming Stick for you today, and we actually have it plugged into our TV, so we'll be showing you some demos, and we have the remote right here. So, well, yeah, what exactly have we got here?
Well, this is the Roku Streaming Stick Plus. It is the newest, was part of the new wave of Roku devices. The Streaming Stick Plus is kind of the biggest deal because it is a stick that plugs into the back of the TV. It's just $70, and now it supports 4K. The previous Roku Streaming Stick and the regular Roku Streaming Stick, the Non-Plus, which is still available for $50, just does 1080p. This does 4K with HDR10 support, so it lets you watch 4K content.
Okay, so we have 4K, which I think people are getting more familiar with. It's,
Right.
It's a much higher resolution than HD. But could you talk a little bit about HDR? That's high dynamic range. What is that, and does this thing happen?
Yeah, HDR basically says it has the same number of pixels as regular 4K. It doesn't change how many pixels there are, it just changes the values of the pixels. So they can get brighter, darker. They have a wider range of color information for each pixel. So if the TV can support it, it can offer a wider array of colors, wider contrast, brighter, deeper shadows, depending on the panel, but it needs to be able to support the format. And there are two major formats right now. There's Dolby Vision and HDR10. This uses HDR10, which it's available on several different services. Others use Dolby Vision, and you of course need a TV that's compatible specifically with Dolby Vision to use that. So HDR is still sort of a muddy area that I can definitely understand a lot of consumers being confused by.
Right.
And there isn't really a universal perspective yet.
So this is really just, so, HDR is kind of almost like not a gimmick, but something that's like nice to have, but you're probably not, if you're flipping through some Netflix shows, it's going to be hit or miss as to whether or not you're going to get it. Right?
Yeah, in fact, Netflix supports both Dolby Vision and HDR10, I believe, but it also depends on basically what content it is.
Now, this Roku Streaming Stick is $69, I believe.
Yep.
Is that the cheapest Roku that you can get with 4K and HDR?
Yeah, it is the least expensive. It is basically at the same price as the Google Chromecast Ultra, which is the 4K version of the Chromecast. The regular Chromecast is like $35. And the cheapest Roku, the Roku Express, is I believe $30.
So price-wise, this is a bit more expensive, but it has these features. I mean, compare
the 4K
this to
support.
What's the 4K? The Chromecast Ultra, how much is that?
That's about the same price, about $70.
Price.
We have a question.
Yeah, go ahead. We have a question.
Don't most 4K HDR TVs come with smart functions already?
Most do, yes. But the nice thing about the Roku ecosystem is that there are so many different channels and services. You're not always going to get everything you want on, say, an LG TV with WebOS or a Sony TV with Android TV. Roku has one of the widest selections of apps and services in its channel store. So you can get almost anything you want as long as it isn't Apple. There's Google Play, although in testing, Google Play on this doesn't support 4K yet. Amazon Video, Netflix, Hulu, Crunchyroll, Sling TV, PlayStation Vue. In terms of platform compatibility, Roku is one of the widest available. So you're probably going to find what you want to watch on it.
And it's interesting, too, with the Roku remote here, they actually have pre-dedicated buttons for 4 of the services, Netflix, Sling, PlayStation Vue, and Hulu. I was looking at this and thinking, those are great, those are things a lot of people have, but wouldn't it be nice if they had blank buttons and you could just put your own stickers on?
It would be nice, but we think that this is it is convenient. It is nice to just press a button and go straight to Hulu or Netflix. But it could also be, marketing tie-ins that these companies are big enough they want to have their button on the remote, which we've been seeing in a lot of, not necessarily other media hubs, but on many TVs. A lot of with connected features on them have their own Netflix button. So it's handy. Yeah, it might be handier if you could program the buttons, but that's also another layer of the user needing to go into the device and figure out how it works. And the nice thing about Roku is it's really easy. You just find what you want, and they're just big, friendly tiles. It kind of walks you through it.
So let's do a demo in a second, but first let's take another question.
If someone has the most recent Roku before this, I don't know which one it is, why should they get this, or should they?
Well, it depends on which Roku. The Premier Plus or the Roku Ultra, they aren't sticks, but they are 4K. They have pretty much the same features. You might get faster performance on the 4K Roku and the newer Ultra. They have new processors. The stick actually has a unique antenna array built into the power cable, which Roku says increases the Wi-Fi range by 4 times, but that's also compared to the stick. If you're happy with your Premiere Plus or Roku Ultra, you might not need to upgrade to a Roku Streaming Stick Plus or the new Roku Ultra. But if you have a Roku that doesn't support 1080p, or if you just have like an aging Roku that feels a bit jerky, the faster performance on the 2017 models are probably going to be beneficial. And a nice new feature, which we can't demonstrate now because of how we are basically able to show you what's on the screen, but the new generation of Rokus with the remote automatically detect the TV it's connected to over HDMI, so you can actually control your TV's volume levels and turn it on and off using the power and volume buttons, which is a new feature for the 2017 models, and that's very handy. It's a small thing, but it means that if you want to watch something on your Roku, you don't need to get your TV remote first.
So it sounds like basically if you are considering buying a new 4K TV with HDR support, you should, pricing issues aside, you might want to consider getting a non-Roku TV and then buying one of these things rather than getting it built in, or is that not?
It's worth considering. You know, for TV reviews, we prioritize picture performance over connected features generally. We've been impressed with a lot of like LG TVs, but WebOS doesn't really have all the apps that you necessarily want.
Not as streamlined as Roku.
Pretty much. On the other hand, the issue with the Roku 4K devices, lack of Dolby Vision support, which I believe is on the Apple TV 4K and should be on the new Amazon Fire TV. So it's, does your TV support Dolby Vision? You might not want to go with Roku. You might want to look at the alternatives. But it's also, you know, pricing, availability, what's your favorite ecosystem? Another interesting thing with this has voice search, which is a handy feature. You can just say, ideally, you
hello,
can if come up.
Where are you?
We might have a connection issue right now.
Oh, is the remote not starting?
It's working. It just yeah, small technical issue. You can search for content on this by speaking into the pinhole microphone. Usually, just not when we're streaming.
How does that compare to the voice search features on, say, the Alexa-enabled Amazon Fire TV?
That's where it lags behind. Finding content is great. If you want to search for like a TV, even if it's live TV, that's fine. Movies, shows, great. But Alexa on the Fire TV and Siri on the Apple TV 4K, and actually Google Assistant recently added to the Shield TV. They're voice assistants, so they can do way more.
Right.
Home control, like automation stuff, you can get information, weather reports. This doesn't do that.
So you're not going to be able to ask the Roku to turn your lights off. You're going to have to turn your lights off manually and then ask the Roku to play whatever you want to watch.
We have a question.
Yeah, looks like we've got a question.
To clarify, what's the range of the remote, and does it work with computer monitors?
The remote just works with, I believe, you know, it detects the TV mic and model through the HDMI. So I suppose if your computer monitor has IR control, which would kind of make it a TV, then it would. But the issue is how it detects it. It then tells the remote what IR blast to send. This isn't HDMI CEC, so it isn't direct control over the cable. It's actually telling the remote to send commands to the TV through the infrared emitter. So it probably will not work with monitors in the same way. You can plug it into a monitor and work just fine if it's HDMI, but not the same.
And this is also, because this is IR, you're going to have to kind of point it at there are some Roku remotes, I believe, that have an RF frequency that connect to the Roku
actually,
that way, right, or not?
Because this is a streaming stick, it is wireless for the stick. The IR is just for TV control.
I see. Okay.
So you actually can have it pointed anywhere.
So when you're just controlling the stick, it doesn't matter where you point it. Okay, got it. Looks like we've got another question.
Are there regional restrictions on the content?
Yeah, pretty much. There's going to be regional restrictions on any streaming service that isn't on Roku. That is on basically limitations with Netflix, Sling, PlayStation Vue, Hulu. Anywhere that studios or any kind of production company or publisher or outlet has limitations on where you can and can't watch things, there are going to be restrictions. This isn't a Roku-specific thing. If you're not working with a VPN, you're going to have issues, say, watching the same Netflix stuff in Canada or France.
So we're going to get to some more questions in a minute, but Will, I just wanted to ask you if there's anything in the Roku interface that you think we should show off with this.
Specifically,
assuming it works.
Yeah, for some reason, voice search isn't working right now. I think it's a network issue. But the interface is largely pretty much the same as previous Rokus. Roku's been adding new features and sort of cleaning up the interface a fair bit, but they've kept the general design language pretty similar for the last few years. So it's nice and reliable, so if like your parents have Roku devices, they can upgrade to this and not have to learn anything new, which is nice. And it's just very simple and accessible.
Looks like we've got another question.
What's the Apple TV like in comparison to this, especially like the new 4K version?
Well, the Apple TV is over twice as expensive, which is sort of the main thing. The TV OS App Store much more meager than what you can find on the channel store. You're not going to get Spotify on the, or I don't think you will, on the Apple TV. Certain streaming things, there just aren't apps for it yet. They've been getting better in the past, but it's still pretty limited compared with, Fire TV, Roku, or Amazon, or Android TV. But if you have a lot of iOS or iTunes content, it's pretty great for that because it's basically a device for people who are in the Apple ecosystem and are willing to spend twice as much. The 4K is $180 and this is $70, so that's a pretty big leap.
But one thing that I find to be really a hassle with using the Roku is you have to sign in to all of your services individually. Is there any way around that? Or, I mean, I know that Apple now has the single sign-on thing. Is there anything on the Roku side?
Roku doesn't have single sign-on, but for several major services, you can actually sign in through your computer when you're setting up the device, so you don't need to do it manually with each one. And of course, once you're signed in, you don't need to sign in again on the same device. So you're pretty good for that, and it's just sort of an initial inconvenience when you're setting it up, but after that, it's not really a big deal.
Are there any big things missing from Roku that you think there should be on there?
Besides Dolby Vision, the big issue is Fire TV, Android TV, specifically the Shield TV, and Apple TV have all been moving on past voice search to voice assistants with Siri, with Alexa, with Google Assistant. So this, even though you can search for stuff with your voice, it's super limited compared to those things where you can just say, what's the sports score? And you can't get that when you're just searching for content.
Looks like we've got another question.
So it's just a proprietary Roku voice search?
Yes, it is Roku's internal voice search. That it goes across many different services in the Roku channel store. It's pretty good in telling you something's on Hulu or Netflix or Amazon, but it won't answer your questions like Alexa or Siri, and it can't do home control.
Yeah. What about Wi-Fi performance? Because this does not have Ethernet, so you're really going to be limited to some environmental factors that might be in your home limiting Wi-Fi performance. Is that going to be an issue, especially with like 4K streaming?
Wi-Fi can always be an issue, but it's actually very good on this device because they move the antenna array to a separate box that is on the power cable that goes outside of the stick. So Roku says it has 4 times the range, and in our testing, we've been able to stream 4K stuff pretty much just fine. So things will always vary on your own network environment, but the Wi-Fi performance we've seen has been excellent.
Great. It looks like we don't have any more questions, so we're all good on that front. Again, this has been the Roku. What exactly is the full name of this thing?
This is the Roku Streaming Stick Plus. It is $69.99, and you can read our full review of it on PCMag.com.
And we gave it
4 stars.
4 stars. Okay, so yeah, this is
we have a question
excellent thing. Let's take one more question before we go.
And just to clarify, it's in stores now?
It is coming to stores very soon if it isn't in stores already. It's basically by the end of the month you can expect to see it.
Yeah, and Roku makes it very easy to buy things on their website, unlike some other lesser-known TV device manufacturers. Anyway, so yes, definitely check out the newest Roku lineup. This has been one cool thing. Definitely, and also check in tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern when we will bring you one more cool thing on Facebook. And in the meantime, visit PCMag.com, check out Facebook and Twitter for all of your tech-related questions. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.